주한인도상공회의소 사무실장을 맡고 있는 장동진입니다. 먼저 오늘 주한인도대사관과 주한인도상공회의소가 공동으로 주최하는 한인도 방위산업포럼에 오신 여러분들을 진심으로 환영합니다. 오늘 행사는 동시통역으로 진행을 하겠습니다. 여러분 앞에 있는 동시통역기를 사용해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. We provide the simultaneous interpretation. You can use the team on in front of you. 오늘 프로그램은 여러분들께 이미 나눠드렸습니다만은 저희가 중간에 만찬을 하고 후반에 다시 프레젠테이션을 형식으로 진행을 하겠습니다. 그러면 먼저 모디 수석님께서 새로운 정책을 발표하신 메이크 인 인디아 정책을 소개하는 메이크 인디아 비디오를 보시고 다음 순서를 진행하겠습니다.
From hardware to software, from satellites to submarines, from friendship to partnership, from profit to progress. Whatever you want to make in India. The wheels are turning as India's dynamic new leadership and strategic vision transform the way we do business. Fast-tracking deals and projecting power with strategic partnerships like never before. Our Make in India program welcomes investors by de-licensing, deregulating and promoting ease of doing business. Reaching out worldwide for the best-in-class manufacturing partnerships. Putting our money into innovation and skills development. And providing the best and most dedicated teams to assist you with speedy clearances. It's the deal of the century, as the third largest military in the world opens its strategic defense sector to global investors. An annual defense budget of $38 billion, of which 40% is spent on capital acquisition. More than $200 billion to be spent on defense modernization in the next 10 years. Offset obligation of more than $5 billion to be discharged over the next 7 to 8 years. We've always been big on procurement. We've always dealt with the biggest and the best. Global equations reshape to meet new challenges, we are bringing you a real game changer. In the new Indian policy environment, our infrastructure is a seamless extension of your workspace and operations. As the global economy reaccelerates, this is where you can multiply your scale, your reach, your production, and most of all, your profits by partnering with us. In defense manufacturing, we've got everything global defense manufacturers are looking for, and we've turned it around to deliver for you. This is the country that sent a mission to Mars on its first attempt. The producer of the world's best supersonic cruise missile through a global public-private partnership. You're getting access to a global leader in satellite technology. Specialists in metals and metal alloys manufacturing for aerospace and defense. Support for all modern warfare applications. transforming equipment, specialized infrastructure, and military transport. A network of 52 specialized defense laboratories for the full spectrum of cutting-edge applications. A robust and diversified private sector with decades of experience in defense production and R&D. Today, India's private sector is growing in leaps and bounds as the new free market policies unleash its animal spirits and open the doors everywhere for boundless expansion. All this backed by the world's largest public sector defense production setup with no less than 41 ordnance factories. A setup no less transformed by the new focus on delivery. Our facilities matched by our personnel, a huge, skilled and globalized English-speaking workforce that's a trendsetter in fields as diverse as software, engineering and scientific research. Today we're leapfrogging on our well-established strengths. Our expertise in sophisticated, contemporary missiles and underwater weapons has led us to our first state-of-the-art surface-to-surface missile, Prithvi. We're building and exporting warships and offshore patrol vessels from our dedicated defense shipyards. Our infrastructure to build modern naval ships and submarines now compares with the best in the world. But it's not just the seas. We're riding the clouds as well, with manufacturing, assembly and navigation of aircraft, both indigenous and in global partnership. Our experience, our infrastructure, our manpower and capabilities. Add to these the vision and new business environment, and you've got a culture. Up to 49% FDI allowed through FIPB and above 49% FDI allowed in specific areas. Simplified defense procurement with a clear emphasis on buy and make Indian to encourage partnerships and technology transfer. Efficient offset policy to leverage capital acquisitions. Streamlined procedures for grant of industrial licenses to encourage more private participation. A new defense export strategy to encourage exports and synergize global manufacturing and Indian industry for mutual gain. Dedicated defense industrial parks. Flexible labor laws and multiple financial incentives. It's a massive boost for world-class defense products with a focus on exports. So, if you're a defense manufacturer, get in on the ground with Make in India, because this is one deal you don't want to miss.
Honorable Defense Minister, His Excellency Manohar Parrikar, Secretary Defense, Mr. R.K. Mathur, His Excellency Vikram Doraiswamy, Ambassador of India to Korea, Director General DAPA, Ministry of National Defense, Mr. O. Gino, distinguished guests, delegation from India and leaders of defense organization from our both countries, friends of India, a big welcome. I am Parth Sharma, Chairman of Indian Chamber of Commerce, the Defense Committee. The video, Make in India, sums it up. One of the biggest opportunity of our times ahead of us, Make in India. Today is the 4th India-Korea Defense Forum. The Indian Chamber of Commerce Defense Committee has been working and has been instrumental in leading cooperation between defense industries of both nations with efforts and results, especially in the area of shipbuilding, batteries, night vision, ammunition, artillery, among others. This evening today, with the presence of leaders from both countries, stands to recognize the efforts by us to promote defense cooperation between our two countries and set the ball rolling for great results. Without further ado, I invite His Excellency Defense Minister of India, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, to kindly deliver the welcome address. Sorry. Okay. There's a little change. Sorry. I welcome Mr. Sashi Mogal, Chairman of the Indian Chamber of Commerce in Korea and President of Novelis Asia, to come and deliver the opening remarks, please. Thank you.
Good evening. His Excellency Manohar Parrikar, Defense Minister of India, His Excellency Froum, Ambassador of India to Korea, dignitaries from Korea and India, and friends. It is an honor for the Indian Chamber of Commerce in Korea, the ICCK, to host this India-Korea defense industry interaction. This interaction is between two proud nations that have, in many respects, a similar background and therefore a similar worldview. A desire for peace and inclusive goodwill towards humanity underlies this worldview. Indeed, the India-Korea relationship is free from any negative overtones. Both countries know that you need to be strong in order to live in and build a peaceful world. Korea has many areas of defense that it could cooperate with India. The specific ones will be addressed today and in the months to come. The opportunity for Korea to make in India a positive initiative from the new government of India, which we just saw on the video a few minutes ago, is huge. India is the largest importer of defense equipment in the world, and after electronic appliances and cars, it is perhaps the turn of companies in this sector in Korea to make their presence felt in India in a very substantial way. I am glad that this interaction takes place when a fellow IITian, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, is the defense minister. Mr. Parrikar, Koreans, with a great respect for education, are well aware of the Indian Institutes of Technology, and your position today is a reflection of India's governance structure moving towards solid meritocracy and gives great comfort here, as I'm sure it does throughout the world. A word about the Indian Chamber of Commerce in Korea. This chamber was formed in January 2010, around the time that the India-Korea Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, was signed. The chamber has grown to 26 members today, including Tata, Aditya Birla, and Mahindra companies. This chamber facilitates interaction between business entities from the two countries. In the defense sector, as Parth mentioned, this is the 4th in a series of meetings in 2 years. The ICCK is privileged to be able to contribute to such constructive business dialogue. I am sure today's industry interaction will lead to great outcomes. And if there is anything at all that the ICCK can do to help, please let us know. Thank you. Your Excellency, Minister Manipur, Defense Secretary Mathur, General O, Admiral Kim Yong-suk, Mr. Mudgar, friends from Korea and India, 여러분, 안녕하십니까? 만서반갑습니다. It is my proud privilege to welcome you today to this important event. It is not every day that an ambassador gets to welcome one of the senior-most cabinet ministers to his country of accreditation. Of course, it is only my third day in my current post, and for all I know, this might well be the new normal in India-Korea relations. In the next 30 days, we will also welcome the Prime Minister of India to Korea, and in between the Minister's visit and the Prime Minister's visit, there will be a whole range of many more visits. So we hope that your visit, Minister, will be the start of many good things to come in this important bilateral relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of today's interaction is very simple. It is intended to create binding and mutually profitable relationships between Korean and Indian businesses in the defense sector. For far too long, we have talked about the enormous potential between India and Korea, and we have not as yet tapped the enormous opportunities that exist between both of our countries. The Minister and the Secretary will outline the main aspects of our new policies and will of course be available for specific questions that you may have, in which we can actually talk about substance. But it's important to recognize the scale of the opportunity that India today represents. Not only are we the biggest importer of defense goods over the last 4 or 5 years, we will also be replacing in the next 10 to 15 years a very large segment of our defense systems and our capital goods. The opportunities that the Make in India campaign has currently launched by our new government and the hands-on approach of our new leadership to getting India in high gear are key guarantors of your success. It is vital for our Indian colleagues also to recognize the important place that Korea has as a key strategic partner for India in all sectors, including defense. Not only is this one of the world's leading sectors of technology, highly efficient manufacturing, it also has close synergies between areas of high competence in Korea and areas of great interest to India. The existence of a highly successful Korean business community in India and the fact that Korean brands are household names for India, for most Indians, is a huge opportunity that should not be missed. Ladies and gentlemen, my job is to welcome you here today. It is a great pleasure and a privilege to have our minister here. He is a politician of great experience, a man who has successfully run an interesting and important state, and is a senior-most member of the Prime Minister's cabinet. I will only leave you with one last thought. We always ask ourselves, is now the right time or should we wait for later? There is no better time in India-Korea relations than now, because if not now, then when? Kamsahamnida, Mr. Minister, welcome sir.
Mr. Mungalov, Chairman Indian Chamber of Commerce in Korea, General of Nepal, Defense Secretary Vikram Doraiswamy, Ambassador of India to Korea, all other delegates. I for one believe that making big speeches does not serve the purpose. It's what is important is action, and I believe in action. Even in my address, I will prefer questions after the interaction is over. But I'll just introduce few things before the audience. One is Make in India is a concept which is already on board as far as Korea is concerned, other than defense sectors. Whether it's car, whether it's electronic, as Naval Ambassador indicated, most of the Korean big names are household names in India. In fact, some of them may not even know that they are Korean companies, many of them think that they are Indian companies. Defense is probably only one field which is left high over. Obviously, this was mainly because whatever India produced was produced in public sector units, with the government companies, as was indicated, 41 ordnance factories, some 13 defense PSUs, shipyards, and others. And the rest was imported. India is now entering into a phase where modernization of various forces, their requirements is being undertaken. The opportunity is vast, and the basic change in the reality which is taking place is private sector is being taken into the sector of defense. Earlier also private sector entry was possible, but many times the policies did not encourage it, because after development, the defense being the only procurement for the purchaser, people will think of guarantees of orders. I like to ensure everyone, Make in India this time is a concept where private sector will be assured of business if they develop certain products which India needs. And their participation will be taken into consideration for a longer duration as a partner rather than as a supplier. This is an important mindset change, it's an important policy change. I am aware of many problems faced by industry, including Korean industry, earlier with some procurements of government of India. But this time I can assure you that we are ensuring that these kind of partnerships are long-run partnership and a very healthy as a partner of the Ministry of Defense. There are many changes which have been already taken on board. Like for example, many items have been taken out of list of license required. The FDI cap has been increased from 26 to 49, and in certain strategic and important cases it can be further increased case-to-case basis. The government is willing to take on board any old issues which are pending for a very long time. And the most important is dual-use technologies are welcomed as per the new licensing policy. Export is being encouraged, and I can assure you that India for the first time is in a position to welcome many of the Korean companies which has technology, which open up as a partner with this country which has a long cultural relation with India. And this is a sector where there is a tremendous potential. It was totally a blank sector. In the next 10 years we may have development worth more than $200 billion. And I welcome you all. And if any query remains in your mind at the end of the session, I will prefer to reply them on issue to issue. Thank you very much.
A very good evening to all of you. Excellency, Defense Minister from India, friends from India, friends from Korea. First of all, let me thank India-Korea Defense Industry Forum, Indian Chamber of Commerce Korea, and FICCI, of course Indian Embassy, for making this occasion possible. My grateful thanks. I'd like to mention 6 broad things. First, that in non-defense sectors, Korea is already a household name in India. Defense relations between two countries are the last of the relations which comes between very close partners. I would like to highlight that our minister has chosen to come to Korea as the first visit on Make in India as a subject. And therefore, it is reflective of our desire that the closest of the partnerships, namely defense partnership, should be strengthened, should be nurtured, should be developed with Korea. There are a number of government-to-government forums between India and Korea to support what is being attempted. In fact, from 2005 onwards, we have an agreement on defense industry and logistics cooperation. I'm mentioning this because defense is an industry where government is the only buyer, and therefore a confidence between the two governments, a communication channel which is structured between the two governments, is extremely important, and we have that in a position. In fact, we followed it up by 2 more MOUs. One in 2010 on defense cooperation, another again in 2010 on research and development cooperation. Therefore, I feel that we have a governmental structure in position to support what we are trying to promote. We have in India a defense procurement policy. It has been mentioned by our honorable minister that a lot of changes have already been done in the policy. We look forward to making many more changes in the policy with a view to making it much more transparent, much faster than it has hitherto been. We feel that this change process we should be able to complete in the next 2 to 3 months, and therefore, in terms of a policy framework, I think we expect to have a very robust framework in position very shortly. The existing framework is quite good. With additionalities, we feel it would become attractive. I would like to mention that ever since the new government came into power in India, this government has cleared procurement proposals worth about $12.5 billion US dollars. Out of this, almost $11 billion US dollars relate to what we call Make in India or Buy and Make in India. Each of these 2 categories, which shall be explained to you later, imply that it would be an Indian sector, Indian defense industry, which would be in the lead, but with collaboration, with technical support of maybe a foreign partner, and it is expected that they would manufacture the products in India. Therefore, the business opportunity really lies in terms of making in India. Now, what is the size of the business opportunity? India expects that over the next 10 years, procurements worth about $250 billion US dollars shall be made. India expects that in the next 10 years, about $150 billion US dollars additional would be spent on homeland security. And therefore, we are talking of a kitty of almost $400 billion US dollars over the next 10 years, where most of the PT would lie in making in India, and therefore this is an attractive moment so far as India is concerned. It is an attractive moment so far as investors in India is concerned. Honorable Minister has already mentioned that it is very recently that we have invited wholeheartedly the private sector in India to come forward and participate in defense cooperation, in defense production. We also expect that the Indian private sector as well as the Indian public sector would also attract and bring private sector from different foreign countries to India to manufacture these products. I would simply say that this is the moment when the changes are occurring. It is really for good friends like Korea to catch on this opportunity and come to India. This is the right time. I would also suggest that we have two major industries exhibitions, namely Defense Expo and Aero India. These are the two exhibitions in which I would strongly recommend your participation so that you can learn what are the opportunities which are available. Our request for information for different products is always put on the internet by the Defense Ministry. I would encourage you to have a look at it and see whether these products attract you. I would also like to say that it is not as if I am talking of only partnering necessarily with the Indian private manufacturer or public sector manufacturer. So far as I am concerned, you can follow the civilian sector lead of Hyundai, where units have been set up for 100% exports. The country would encourage that. If you wish to have management control of a company and still manufacture in India, that is a possibility which is open to you. But, as I said, the biggest chunk would be where you partner with an Indian private company or an Indian public sector company. Having said this, let me just repeat once again that with the policy changes that are occurring in the country, this is the moment to enter India. Later may be late. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Raksha Mantri, Defense Secretary, Ambassador of India to Korea, distinguished delegates present here, ladies and gentlemen. While we identify areas for technology cooperation in the defense sector between India and the Republic of Korea, the objective of my presentation here is to give you a policy update about the Indian defense industry and the defense procurement procedure. I would like to give you an overview of the Indian defense sector. We are the third largest armed forces with a defense budget of almost $38 billion. 40% of our budget is used for capital acquisition. We are the largest importer of defense goods. About 40 to 60% of our capital requirements are imported. The defense industrial base in India has been traditionally centered around 9 public sector undertakings and 41 ordnance factories with a production valued at almost $8 billion. In recent years, several private sector companies have also come into manufacturing, design and innovation, and 33 joint ventures have been approved with foreign companies. The defense procurement policy of the Indian government lists different categories of acquisition in order of preference. The first and foremost is Buy Indian, wherein preference is given to only Indian companies, with 30% of indigenous content mandatory. In case a particular equipment or technology is not available within the country, only then move forward to Buy and Make Indian, in which Indian companies are free to have joint ventures and technology ties with foreign partners. The initial equipment may be foreign, but over the complete order, 50% indigenous content becomes mandatory. The third category which we follow for our acquisition is Make. Development of new and complex systems through R&D. 80% of the development cost of prototype is funded by the government based on milestone achievements. The development of prototype is followed by an assured order given by the Ministry of Defence. This again ensures 30% indigenous content, though the time frame is much longer, and successful development is followed by procurement. The next category is Buy and Make with transfer of technology. Initially, we buy from foreign OEMs, followed by licensed production by an Indian company through transfer of technology. The fifth category, which is adopted as a matter of last resort, is Buy Global, when we make it open for all companies at the global level. Here again, there is an offset requirement of 30%. So in fact, if you see, the focus of our procurement policy is on procurement from the Indian industry, with preference being given to the first two models, Buy Indian and Buy and Make Indian, over Buy Global. There is a clear measurement of indigenous content in all our procurements. Buy and Make Indian is preferred for systems where technology does not exist with Indian companies. The users, the industry and the R&D institutions are working closely for indigenous development. Till about 2001, defense production was 100% reserved for the public sector. We had 9 public sector undertakings, one in aerospace, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the 4 shipyards, one in electronics, Bharat Electronics Limited, one in ground vehicles, that is Bharat Earth Movers, one in missiles, BDL, and one in materials, Binhani. And it was only in 2001 that we opened up for the private sector, including foreign investment up to 26%, which, as you've just learned, has now been enhanced to 49%. We have about 150 licensed private companies in all kinds of defense equipments today. Besides this, we have 41 ordnance factories which are producing all kinds of small arms and ammunition, tanks and explosives. DRDO, that is the Defense Research Development Organization, is our premier R&D institution. The total value of defense production is almost $8 billion US, with private sector contributing about $1 billion US. The focus is on domestic development of systems and platforms through collaborative research and development. Now, the capabilities of the Indian defense industry. In the aerospace sector, we are involved in the design, development, manufacture, repair and overhaul of aircraft and helicopters. Aerospace software, ground support equipment. Some of our critical projects are Advanced Light Helicopter, IJT, the Light Combat Aircraft, the AJT. In arms and ammunition, we have capabilities for small arms, medium and heavy caliber guns and mortars, ammunition, propellants, explosives and fuses, armored vehicles and tanks, transport vehicles, munitions for naval, air force applications, parachutes and crew comfort equipment. Our shipyards are involved in design and constructions of all kinds of naval vessels, submarines, stealth frigates, destroyers, corvettes, offshore equipments. In electronics, we are into design, development and manufacture of battlefield surveillance systems, coastal surveillance systems, electronic warfare systems and battlefield communication systems. In ground vehicles and missiles, we are into high mobility vehicles, armored recovery vehicles, surface to air missiles, flame launchers, field level test equipments. It was only last year that the Indian government launched a very important initiative, Make in India, about which you all must have heard, and you've just seen a documentary also, Make in India. The primary objective of this campaign is to promote and encourage domestic manufacturing of various items. The requirement for domestic manufacturing of items is more for defense than for any other sector. We really aspire to see India emerge as the global defense and aerospace manufacturing hub with substantive self-reliance and indigenization in defense equipment and technology. We intend developing a strong R&D base with technical know-how and mobile, and eventually having a robust ecosystem of domestic system integrators supported by tier 1 to 3 suppliers as part of the global supply chain. To meet these aspirations, the Indian government has evolved a Make in India policy. As Defence Secretary also mentioned, that in the defence sector, government is the only consumer. So Make in India would be driven by the procurement policy. The defence procurement procedure, which I have just outlined, certainly gives preference to Buy Indian and Buy and Make Indian. Besides which, we have also liberalized the industrial licensing policy. Till last year, for most of parts, components, sub-assemblies, there was a requirement to obtain industrial license. This requirement has been done away with. This is a recent policy initiative of the Government of India. In order to encourage foreign investors to come into this sector, FDI has been enhanced to 49%. And in certain cases, it can even go beyond 49% if the objective is to have access to modern and state-of-the-art technology. There were earlier restrictions on foreign institutional investment of 24%. Those have also been removed. There were restrictions on single largest Indian shareholding in FDI. This has also been removed. So FDI policy has really been revamped in the last 1 year. Offset policy, of course, has been there since 2005, but a lot of provisions have been taking place in the offset policy. The objective is to leverage capital acquisitions and to develop the capacity of Indian defence industry. It provides an opportunity to Indian SME industry for manufacturing and exports of defence products. It applies only to capital acquisitions. There is a minimum threshold that has been specified for offsets. In Buy Global, 30% of the estimated cost is what is quantified as the offsets. In Buy and Make Global, 30% of foreign exchange component. And these obligations under offset are to be discharged with eligible activities, products and services. This list of eligible products has been expanded since the last 1 year. Multipliers have been introduced for involving small and medium enterprises and for ensuring transfer of technology to DRDO. The banking period for offsets has also been enhanced from 2 to 7 years. The discharge period for offsets has been extended by 2 years beyond the period of the main procurement contract. The avenues for discharge of offsets have been increased by allowing investment in kind and in TOT and equipment. The purpose of offset policy is to optimally leverage for acquisition of technology and enhancement of manufacturing capabilities. The security manual giving a detailed security architecture for defence industries has been promulgated. The issue of no objection certificates for export has been streamlined. The requirement of end-user certificate from government authorities for parts components has been dispensed with. We have evolved an online system to make it much simpler for everybody to use. The make procedure is in the process of being simplified and streamlined. Besides this, there are many more initiatives which are underway. We are streamlining the defence offset policy. We are wanting to simplify the defence procurement procedure. The objective is that the industry can plan its investment in R&D well in advance to meet the requirements of our armed forces. We are setting up a dedicated body for defence exports and investment promotion. There is a proposal which has been announced in the budget speech to set up a technology development fund for supporting R&D industry and research institutions. The objective would be to provide resources to these SMEs and research institutions for research in specific technologies which are identified as critical by the armed forces. We have initiated a few make projects and we are very soon coming up with a shelf of make projects for the next time span of about 10 to 15 years. The opportunities are enormous in the defence sector which has just been opened up. The modernization of armed forces is expected to involve an estimated capital budget of $250 billion in the next 10 years. With the thrust on Make in India, out of capital acquisition proposals of $12.5 billion in the last 1 year, proposals worth $11 billion were categorized under Buy Indian and Buy and Make Indian. The offset obligations are also to the tune of about $5 billion. In India, we have presence of large conglomerates and specialized companies with extensive experience in heavy engineering, design and ICT. This offers a big opportunity in the defence sector, both for domestic as well as for foreign investors. With a liberal licensing and FDI policy, with a defence export strategy and a strong track record in many of these areas, and a large pool of cost-effective human resource, India has the highest number of engineering graduates per year. With this, we urge the Korean defence industry to come forward not to miss this opportunity, explore possibilities of setting up manufacturing facilities in India in collaboration with Indian companies. We assure you of all the necessary support on behalf of the Government of India.